Grandpa left after the cotton was picked, and they did not see him again until winter. He never wrote, but they knew he was making his endless rounds, picking cotton, pulling corn, jobbing for acquaintances, for a bed and something to eat. He arrived again at their house one sleety December evening, 2 days before Christmas. Inez saw him first, inching his way across the slippery, ice-encrusted footplank that spans the creek. She had sneaked out the door to give her a handful of pebble sleet that had blown upon the front porch. Grandpa had his clothes rolled up in a bundle and hung on the handle of a hatchet as he carried it on his shoulder, and on his other shoulder he carried a heavy, clanking tote sack. "Grandma! Mama, Grandpa's coming! He's coming! He's crossing the plank!" Inez ran into the fireplace room, and Elsie ran out to see him. "Elsie, get back in here! You'll catch your death of cold!" And then Katie ran out to greet her father, arms stretched out. "Papa, I knew you were coming. My nose was itching off. Come into us out of this bad weather." So Grandpa dumped his tote sack onto the front porch. "Whee, them old traps are getting mighty heavy. I'll just leave them right there. Need to grease them in the morning. Thought I'd do a little trapping down this way and visit you folks." "Well, we're well, Papa. How are you?" "Well, middling well, I reckon. I can't complain." Grandpa pulled his palms together and held his hands over the snapping fire in the fireplace. Each of his thumbs was tied with a dingy rag. "Feels mighty good to get warm in here," he said, turning toward his back. "Well, now Santa Claus is coming tomorrow night," Elsie informed him. "Is he now? Well, I hope he don't get froze up." "Oh, he don't mind cold. He's from the North Pole." "Say, I bet I saw him today. Old man, ain't he? Kind of fat, carrying a big sack." Elsie nodded enthusiastically and ran to tell Katie, "Grandpa saw Santa Claus." Andrew had just come in from the back door and was stamping his feet on the cloth. A cold wind brushed in and he closed the door. "Christmas, but it's cold out there. Got plenty of wood for our cook stove? Let me stoke her up." And Andrew adjusted the grate and pushed coals into the front of the stove and put in more wood. "Papa's here, brought his traps," Katie told Andrew as he warmed his hand. "Well, now this is the weather for trapping." "Andrew," Katie lowered her voice, "it's so cold, and I'm worried I won't have enough cover. The mattress from the other room on the floor by the fireplace, and let Papa sleep there. The wind's just blowing through the cracks in the other room, and sleet has drifted through the shingles and it's all over the bed. Now we could do that, and I'll get the saddle blanket to spread on his feet." So Andrew built the fire up before they went to bed, laying a big log on, and Katie put the smoothing irons in front of the fireplace to warm, and then wrapped them in old pants legs to put their feet on them for warmth. "Are you warm, Papa?" she asked as she tucked him under the saddle blanket. "Snug as a boll weevil and you square of cotton," he said. Inez snuggled beside Katie in one bed and Elsie beside Andrew in the other. Sleet slashed on the roof and against the thin walls. The fire sizzled and sent out spurts of steam from the fireplace. Soon there was a snoring down by the fireplace. "Andrew, are you warm?" Katie asked. "Yeah, except for this blamed piece of iron that Elsie carries around as using it for a doll." Katie chuckled. "Well, just one more night, Andrew, and then maybe Santa Claus will have a real doll stuffed in his sack when he comes." Grandpa had the fire burning bright and his mattress rolled up against the wall when Inez woke the next morning. "Christmas Eve gift to you, Papa," Katie called at him as she warmed her stockinged feet at the fireplace. Grandpa stuck his head in there. "Now, Katie, you have gone and caught me barehanded. What a terrible fellow I am." And then he lowered his voice to a loud whisper. "But I brought something for the little ones, peppermint sticks." "Papa, how nice. Now you put the kettle on for coffee and I'll make some biscuits and fry the squirrel that Andrew killed yesterday evening for our Christmas Eve breakfast." "Dipper's froze in the water bucket," Grandpa informed them from the clatter of brick and the ice in the kitchen. "Andrew better hurry up from the barn and milk the cow, or the milk will be froze in the bucket." "Well, I never saw it that cold, Papa." The breakfast conversation was a jumble of trapping and Christmas plans. "Seen some good tracks around here, Andrew?" A lot of coon tracks over in the big slough. Some possum, maybe otter. Mama's going to make a cake today, Grandpa. 2, one black and one white. Daddy bought a can of coconut, as Inez pepped up from the bench and ran to the table to get the can. Grandpa took the can and inspected it. Well, there you are, a store-bought can of Southern Angel Flake coconut. Well, now, I know it was expensive, Papa, Katie defended her extravagance, but it's Andrew's favorite kind of cake. I always make him one for Christmas. Now, don't you go fussing about spending a little money at Christmas, Grandpa said. Besides, the can will make a nifty drinking glass. Well, Mama's going to sew a sack around it, and when Daddy cuts the ends out and make a dripper for the coffee pot. The old one's all rusted out. Well, good idea. Now, I better get my traps in and all them out and do some business with them old coons that's been eating your dad's corn. Elsa and Inez were torn between the excitement of watching Grandpa oil his traps by firelight and Katie's cake baking. They ran between the lamp kitchen and the fireplace, reporting, "She's putting in the eggs now. She's busted an egg. He's sharpening his hatchet." But by the time Katie got around to stirring in the flour, the cake baking had won out, and both little girls were leaning over, watching every movement of her wrist. Katie took the empty mixing bowl and set the children down by the fireplace to scrape the last of the batter out. "Don't you wish it was Christmas every day, Nez?" Elsie said. "Well, I wish we had cake every day." "Well, that's what I mean." And then Elsie raised troubled eyes to her mother. "Mama, Ma told me there's no such things as Santa Claus with dolls in his sack." "But Grandpa saw him," Inez reminded her. Katie shot a glance at Andrew, and he cleared his throat and spit in the fire. "Well, Elsie," he said slowly, "Mom doesn't get around as much as Grandpa does. She meant she hadn't seen him personally, I reckon." And he looked across at Katie, and she smiled and nodded. Reassured, Elsie abandoned the spoon and started wiping out the bowl with her finger. "When we take Ma a piece of our Christmas cake, we need to tell her that Grandpa saw Santa Claus."